David Fincher is obviously one of the best filmmakers working today. He's an absolute master of his craft that is worth studying. Now, of course, he has his unique filmmaking style. Fincher is known for being a perfectionist. His actors often end up giving hundreds of takes. David is a filmmaker who rarely does handheld. Most of his shots are reserved. He rarely has close ups as well, because whenever there's a close up, the audience knows that whatever is being shown on screen is important. So it's vital to know when to use a close up, and it has to serve a purpose. One of his trademarks is his subtle camera moves. When someone in the shot is moving, it's subtle because the camera moves at even the simplest movements. It tracks the movement of the detectives in this shot as they walk downstairs, but it also tracks this very subtle movement of Daniel Craig moving back in shock. This type of filmmaking allows us to really feel the behavior of every character. This shows us the relationship between physical movement of the people within the scene with respect to the camera. It highlights the importance of filmmaking and acting and how they go together. In Fincher's films, his camera often feels like this ominous and omnipotent being that's viewing these characters from an objective lens, which is why his films are said to be cold and distant. But most of Fincher's films are these dark, violent, and gritty stories that explore the worst parts of the human psyche. His film Seven had a difficult time getting approved just because of how dark it was. But Fincher's films aren't dark for the sake of being edgy. They are because the story and the characters demand that very tone. Films can make you feel all emotions, and being uncomfortable is one of them. His films challenge the audience and leave us to figure out what is wrong and right by the end of it, while still managing to tell a complete narrative. Your mind is a home with an upstairs and downstairs. Upstairs, in your consciousness, things are well lit and regularly swept. Friends visit, Scrabble is played, hot cocoa is brewing, it is a pleasant and familiar place. Downstairs, it is older, darker, and much, much freakier. We call this basement the unconscious mind. The unconscious isn't exactly what it sounds like. It's the stuff you don't, won't, or can't think about. And even though it contains life sustaining energies like the fuse box and water heater, it's a primitive and stinky and scary place, and it's no wonder that given the choice, we don't hang down there. However, your pleasure, your sanity, and even your life depends on occasional round trips. You've got to change the fuses, grab the Christmas ornaments, clean the litter box. For some, eventually the basement door can come right off its hinges, and the slimy, primal dwellers of the deep can become Scrabble partners. You might call this a breakdown or a psychotic break. Occasional ventures by the ego into the unconscious through therapy, meditation, confession, violence keep the consciousness in working order. Dark stories can help us understand the darker parts of ourselves that we often ignore and can help us understand ourselves. Human beings are capable of many sick and twisted things, and instead of ignoring them, Fincher decides to face them head on for what they are and really bring out the depravity of our world. Societies are basically macrocosms of people, only instead of consciousness, a society's upstairs is order and its basement is chaos, whereas the health of an individual depends on the ego's regular descent and return to and from the unconscious. A society's longevity depends on actual people journeying into the unknown and returning with ideas. Like people, societies become neurotic and can eventually break down when they make the mistake of thinking that the downstairs does not exist. If you see Fincher's films, you see that he's definitely more drawn to the dark side of human society, because that's what ground his films cover. The movie Seven is about the detectives trying to solve the killings taking place in their city. Fight Club is about men releasing their anger and frustration and finding comfort in fighting in underground bunkers with other men. The Social Network is obviously about the origin of Facebook, but it's also a human story about a man betraying his best friend. Zodiac is a mystery about finding the identity of the Zodiac killer, and Gone Girl is about the main character's wife going missing and showing the darker sides of their marriage. Fincher's movies are very aggressive. They hate the audience and they hate the world they're set in, and they hate their characters. There's a cold, spiteful atmosphere to his work. His films are inhumane. They tackle heavy themes such as nihilism, isolation, and humanity in morally grey and destructive ways. He is an author who never fails to bring out the worst in people, and there's something so brutally honest about that. But all these films are all about exploring the basement downstairs. They're all about taking these sick and twisted people that we can be quick to judge and showing us their side of the story. It shows us why they are the way they are without justifying their actions, but making us understand where they are coming from. The killer in Seven kills because he's sick of his city and its rotting condition, and we understand why, because throughout the entire film, we see the city in the background and its circumstances. The city's name is never spoken, making it feel more ominous. It's always raining, and the streets are full of dirt, filled with rotten people, where a soon-to-be mother can't feel safe, worrying about how her child will fit into such a disgusting and dangerous world. It rains there every day, as if the city is trying to cleanse itself of the evil and sinful people present within it. It's a great meditation on on apathy and its source. Even though the men in Fight Club begin to be more angry and resentful the more they fight, we can understand why they find solace in this, because we have seen the protagonist and his dull, boring, and mundane life. We have seen what has driven him to such an extent that he is willing to participate in Fight Club to feel alive again. It's about angry young men using violence to express themselves, no matter how primitive that may be. Even though Amy in Gone Girl is absolutely insane, we get her reason for doing what she does. She isn't the only flawed person. Her husband's actions have driven her to the point where she does crazy things. We are shown their relationship and how both of their choices lead them to make bad decisions that progress the conflict in the film. All these characters we would have been quick to dismiss as disgusting and psychotic get to tell their side of the story, and these films allow us to make occasional round trips to our unconscious basement to keep our consciousness in working order. Most of Fincher's films aren't easy to watch, considering the subject matter, but his films reflect the darker side of human nature and shows the terrible things they are capable of. Once we know and acknowledge this side of humanity, we can make changes in how we perceive others and slowly, bit by bit, make the world a better place. Thank you for watching.